I am honored to introduce to you today Dr. R.A. Mashelkar, who is a National Research Professor at NCL and the President of the Global Research Alliance, to give the Crusaders address this year. Dr. Mashelkar has served as the Director General of the CSIR for 10 years. He was also the President of the Indian National Science Academy and the President of the UK Institution for Chemical Engineers. 42 universities from around the world have honored him in honorary doctorates. Dr. Mashelkar has also been bestowed with the Padma Vibhushan, Padma Bhushan and Padma Shri Award. He was the first Indian to be awarded the 𝗕𝗏 Science Prize, which is like a mini Nobel Prize. He is also the first Indian to be elected as a fellow of the US National Academy of Investors. He serves on the board of several reputed companies and is the member of the Scientific Advisory Board for Microsoft. Through his various formal initiatives and informal efforts, Dr. Mashelkar continues to champion the cause of developing nations and underprivileged people everywhere. I would now like to call upon our CEO and Director, Mr. 𝗕𝗫𝗍 𝗵𝗚, to welcome Dr. Mashelkar. Over to you, 𝗕𝗫𝗍.
Thank you, Ashni. Dr. Mashelkar, a National Research Professor, was the longest-serving Director General of Council of Scientific and Industrial Research from 1995 to 2006. He was the Chairman of National Innovation Foundation from 2000 to 2018. He was the President of Indian National Science Academy from the year 2004 to 2006 and the President of Global Research Alliance from 2007 to 2018. 44 universities from around the world have honored him with honorary doctorates, which include universities of London, Salford, Pretoria, Wisconsin, Swinburne, Monash, and Delhi. Dr. Mashelkar has many firsts to his credit. He was the first Indian to win the most prestigious TWAS Lenovo Science Prize in 2018, which is considered as mini Nobel Prize for developing world scientists. First Indian from India to be elected as Fellow of US National Academy of Inventors in 2017. First Asian scientist to win the Business Week USA Award of Stars of Asia at the hands of George Bush Sr., the former president of USA, and the first and only scientist to win the 𝗕𝗫𝗍 Corporate Leadership Award in 1998. He is the only third Indian engineer to have been elected as the Fellow of Royal Society since 1660. Seventh Indian scientist to have been elected as the Foreign Fellow of US National Academy of Science since 1863, and the seventh Indian to have been elected as Foreign Associate of American Academy of Arts and Science since 1780. Dr. Mashelkar has been on the board of directors of India's most reputed companies, which include Reliance Industries Limited, Tata Motors, Hindustan Unilever, Thermax, Piramal Enterprise, KPIT Technology, and several others. Deeply connected with the innovation movement in India, besides chairing India's National Innovation Foundation, he also chaired the Reliance Innovation Council, KPIT Technologies Innovation Council, Thermax Innovation Council, Persistent Systems Innovation Council, and Marico Foundation's Governing Council. He co-chairs the Maharashtra State Innovation Council. Dr. Mashelkar has been a member of External Research Advisory Board of Microsoft, Advisory Board of VTT Finland, Corporate Innovation Board of Michelin, France, Advisory Board of National Research Foundation, Singapore, Corporate Innovation Board, Michelin, among many others. In the post-liberalized India, Dr. Mashelkar has played a critical role in shaping India's science, technology, and innovation policies. He was a member of the Scientific Advisory Council to the Prime Minister, set up by successive governments for 30 years. The President of India honored Dr. Mashelkar with the Padma Shri in 1991, with the Padma Bhushan in 2000, and with the Padma Vibhushan in the year 2014, three of the highest civilian honors. I'm delighted to welcome our Compliance Crusader 2019, Dr. Mashelkar.
Thank you very much. It's such a pleasure, such an honor to be in this 8th edition of Compliance 1010. I must congratulate, first of all, and thank Legasis for the magnificent work that they have done, and particularly bringing the top professionals in governance, in risk, in ethics, in compliance, all together. I still have vivid memories of the 2019 award that they were kind enough to bestow on me. And since then, of course, we have gone virtual because of the pandemic. And I do hope that we'll forget about these new normals and come back to the old normals where we can meet each other, shake hands, give warm hugs, and so on. I would straight away say that governance, risk, and compliance are taking new dimension now with the changing scenario around the world. And what I've done is that I have picked one of that is the risk, linking it to something very important, resilience, but with the intention of reinvention. And I'll explain to you as to why I say that. The moment you talk about risk, these are known, quantifiable threats, and our risk management committees do a standard job. But when it comes to resilience, you may have to deal with a lot of unknown, uncharacterized, low probability events. And we can't, of course, predict the future, but can be better prepared. That is always the case. Now, if you look at the crisis that we had the geopolitical crisis, whether it is Brexit or the ongoing US-China trade war and so on. We have had economic slowdowns. It's not just the 2008. Before that, we had it in 1929, 1973, 1997. We had natural calamities like cyclones, tsunami, floods. We had the climate crisis, drought, wildfires, rising sea levels, and that's a real crisis that we are going to face. And of course, the pandemics, we are experiencing COVID-19. The pandemic is not over. The war of virus versus vaccine has to be finally won by the vaccine. But in all these, building resilience is the most important leadership skill. That is what is emerging. Now, this is a very interesting book by 𝗕𝗺 𝗔𝗂 𝗍. COVID-19 is reshaping our future. And it's something very important there. My fear is COVID-19 will be the dress rehearsal, and we'll have another crisis too big to handle. And COVID-19, as you say, are lockdowns are a sign of a failure. And COVID-19, the black swan or black elephant, that was the question that was raised. And while some have described the COVID-19 pandemic as a black swan event, in reality, it should be treated as a black elephant, a cross between a black swan event and the elephant in the room. And the good question is, what is the role of the board when they see a black elephant in the room? In fact, I remember our friend 𝗔𝗺 𝗍 when we had this conversation between me and Mr. Damodaran and Mrs. Anuaga last year on this topic of governance, risk, and compliance. He had raised this particular issue, and he was absolutely right in raising that. Now, if you see in 2019, what were the issues that occupied the board's mind? Innovation and growth was the highest, technological trends, organization culture, etc., etc., etc. And you can see corporate resilience was the least. Okay, that was 2019. But now, if you look at 2019, only 1/5 believe that a lack of corporate resilience was a significant challenge for their organizations. And among respondents who said resilience was a challenge, nearly half said their boards were unprepared to manage it. So it was given least importance, right, in 2019. But look at 2020. If you see the other issues like organizational purpose, etc., all of them have shown a downward trend, and the only one which has shown an upward trend is corporate resilience between 2019 to 20. So there is a growing awareness of the fact that resilience is going to be the key. Now, if you see the mega trends post-pandemic, you have some weakened trends, some accelerated trend, and some new trends. And one of the most important is accelerating the digitalization of life and business. And you have seen higher processing speeds, larger data capacity, evolution of artificial intelligence. And of course, there are work style reforms that are coming in. Then you are seeing concentration of profits to digital platforms, dispersion of urban population, etc. So I think within this, what strikes most is the way digitalization has hit the fast forward button. In fact, the Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella on recent quarterly earnings call said, we have seen 2 years worth of digital transformation in 2 months. If you just see US e-commerce penetration, it was growing steadily, and suddenly 10 years growth in 3 months. Telemedicine, for example, 10 years of change in 1 week is what one expert has said. So this suddenness is extremely important, something that we discussed last year also. We have, of course, I've been on the board of Reliance from 2007, and we held our AGM virtually, and 3.2 lakh concurrent users across 42 countries and 468 cities sort of made it. And this would not have been possible but for the power of digitalization. Now, why resilience is so important now? Because we have less historical precedent for our understanding of today's challenges, and that demands a new dimension of resilience. And that has to be at different levels: individual, team resilience, organizational resilience, and at a national level also we must become resilient. Now, in terms of business resilience, there is a complete change. I mean, first let us understand that resilience is the ability of a business to withstand, adapt, and thrive in the face of shocks that are internal and external, as well as known and unanticipated. What it means is that our mindsets have to change. Our mindset of protection, I need to stop something bad from happening, to opportunity. I could make something great happen. Or expert to curious. Expert is, I should know this already and have answers. No. I'll ask a lot of questions to learn more. The reactive, what's the problem? And then I find a solution. No. Creative, what are the possibilities? And then what is the bigger purpose? And rather acting as a victim, my growth is limited by facts beyond my control. You have to be a change agent. I back myself to learn and get things done. So therefore, there has to be a fundamental change in the new era. I propose that, I read a beautiful analogy. This is not my original, so I must say this. Resilience is like when you build an immunity, all right? So known or unknown virus comes, but you create antibodies and sort of resist it. So let us carry on that analogy. And in order to build immunity, what are the things that we need to actually do? So I propose 10 things: adaptability, agility, resilient thinking, scenario-based planning, purpose-driven, creating a purpose-driven organization, platformization, making organization digital ready, fostering self-disruption, being climate conscious, and finally autonomous innovation. Let me take you very quickly through each one of these. The first one is adaptability. That's the best strategy when the business environment is hard to predict. Normally, if you say, what is the predictability and how do we shape our industry? The classical is just be big and everything will be taken care. But the adaptive is being fast and visionary is being first, all right? So you have to move into this quadrant. Now, within India, we have this example like TCS. Its revenues grew from $155 million in 1996 to $21 billion. But their strategy It adapts to shifts in technology, shifts in customer needs, shifts in business environment consistently. So adaptability is extremely important. The second is agility, quickly adapt and respond to a change. I mean, here is a brilliant example. Israel, 40 Israeli collaborators came together in 13 days and they created an open source ventilator in just 13 days at 1% of the cost of high-end ventilators. Incredible. That's what the business needs, the speed. Then, of course, why should I give only Israel example? I'm very proud. My own CSIR, for example, the Indian Institute of Chemical Technology, within 4 weeks' time, they created innovative process chemistry. They provided the APIs and starting materials to Cipla. Using locally available chemicals, Atmanirbhar Bharat has to depend upon local, and these 𝗕𝗏𝗶𝗃 tablets were created. And you can see the speed, agility with which they could do it. A global example is this global vaccine development. The first sequencing was done on January 10, okay? And by the end of the year, the phase 1 vaccination actually began. That's the fastest. I cannot say greater agility than this. Of course, that was backed on strong science base. The next one is resilience thinking, designing the system to handle any unforeseen events. For example, 𝗕𝗫𝗵𝗃 Ambani, when he decided to start refinery in Jamnagar, he called consultants. And the consultants asked him a standard question: for what quality of crude, what specification of crude we should design the refinery? And his answer? Design my refinery that can handle every type of crude. Then they said, of course, there is no such refinery in the world. He said, no, let there be the first one. And Reliance now today handles 135 types of crudes today, from dirtiest to the best. And that's why their margins are always the highest. And he had, of course, said, I had dreams of starting a company like Mashelkar. Forget about Mashelkar. Reliance has overtaken Exxon to become world's #2 energy firm. That's the dream. But the basic resilience was built right at the start. So resilient thinking is extremely important. The next is scenario-based planning, making assumptions on what the future is going to be and not having a fixed view and planning accordingly. The best example I see is Shell. Fortune global ranking of Shell, if you see 95, they were 10, 2009, 1, 2019, 3, always on the top 10 in so many years. And that is because they react faster than other companies by virtue of the sensitivity to emerging topics, whether it is climate change, whether it is rise of China, whether it is shale gas, okay? And they've been there for 100 years now, in 100 countries, 14 sectors, 10 energy carriers. I think that's a wonderful example. And the future planning based on mega trends will be critical to our success. That means don't look at the present and see what will happen in the future, but look at the future, like what will be the global order now, and then actually design yourself, having a view of what are the root causes, what are the cost sector disruptions, what will be the new rules of the game. That's going to be what is important. The other most important thing is purpose driven. We must have a purpose in life, जिसको हम North Star कहते हैं, ध्रुव तारा. Okay, organizations have to be driven by that. And why does an organization exist? Most employees would know what we do. They know how we do it. But why is hardly answered, as a matter of fact. So if you see, for example, purpose-driven companies outperform the S&P 500 by 10 times, or employees with a strong sense of purpose are at least 4x more likely. So what is the local example of this? I'm sorry, I'm giving a Reliance example because to me, the R in Reliance stands for resilience, as I have seen in the last 14 years, and I have been a personal witness to it. So I remember when the meltdown in 2008 came, I've been the chairman of Reliance Innovation Council, and I remember meeting Mukesh Bhai, and Mukesh Bhai said all hands have to be on the deck at that time. And then all hands on deck means not just senior management, the entire organization, lakhs of people. And we created Mission Kurukshetra. And we said the fundamental principles will be extreme efficiency, value maximization, and war on waste. And the entire organization was aligned to this big purpose. And amazingly, everyone sort of contributed to finding solutions, etc. They became part of a solution, of a kind of, I mean, it's a magic. So once you define the big purpose, the organization, the other thing is platformization that is becoming very, very important. This is a part of being resilient, moving from products to platform. You can see 2009 to 2019, within a decade, if you see the top global companies by market cap, PetroChina was #1, ExxonMobil #2, Microsoft #3, ICBC China, and BHP Billiton. Okay. Now just see in 2019, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Alphabet, Facebook. Can you see this? These are all platform technology, platform companies. And they power the most valuable companies. And we have seen in India, Jio platform creating history, jumping 47 places in 3 months to 51st most valued company. So that is. Then being digital ready, I've already mentioned about that. So adoption of digital technologies, end-to-end digitization for value creation is very important. And you can see the key performance indicator improvements that we have, whether it is in productivity, sustainability, agility, speed to market, customization. You can see, for instance, productivity increases of this order, or then agility, the lead time reductions of this order, etc. Now, the point I want to emphasize is that, when a caterpillar gets transformed into a butterfly, that's a real digital transformation. But mere digitization, where you just sort of digitize certain processes, but the rest of it remains the same, is like having a caterpillar and making it a faster or a better caterpillar. So we don't want to move from a caterpillar to caterpillar. We have to change the caterpillar, transform it to a butterfly. And that requires total systems thinking. All right. That's very, very important. And you can see that post-COVID-19 world, accelerating Industry 4.0 is happening. You can see agility and flexibility are getting prominence, from hypothesis-driven to data-driven, from less waste to no waste, replacing human to cyber-physical production. It's not man versus machine. It is man and machine, okay? From being responsive to being predictive, being from factory-bound to interconnected, the whole range of transformations have to basically take place. And companies, of course, they have accelerated the Industry 4.0 adoption, as you can see. And the core of self-optimizing is self-learning, that is utilizing system data for accurate prediction, self-adapting, that is reacting in real time to changing conditions. Basically, the word quarterly has lost meaning, by the way. Everything is sort of online. Self-sustaining, that is detecting anomalies and triggering mitigation. This is what is going to be very important. And therefore, the digital twins, they are building resilient open sectors like oil, gas, renewable energy, transportation, manufacturing. This is going to be the new trend. So digital twin already tells you the future, and you sort of start becoming sort of prepared for it. The other one is, of course, fostering self-disruption. Innovate to disrupt yourself, or someone else will do. And this is where I like Vijay Govindarajan's book. There is a 3-box solution that is given. Forget the past, manage the future, that's the present, but the creating the future becomes very, very important. And great companies will remain resilient. Just see Novartis, for example. They started with organic chemistry, moved into microbiology, moved into genomics, and now they are imagining Novartis as a medicines and data science company. That's a complete transformation. They just did not stick around with organic chemistry. And finally, I come to the most important part, the climate consciousness. Adopting sustainability and environment-friendly approach while doing business is very critical. I remember 𝗕𝗊𝗶𝗀𝗃𝗱𝗏, my great friend and a great icon, great thought leader, writing way back in September 2009 that sustainability is not a choice, it's a business imperative. And he and I used to sit on the Hindustan Unilever board, and we often used to discuss this. And Unilever was an example. They launched Sustainable Living Plan in 2010. And if you see now, new companies are coming up. Everybody is making an announcement, somebody by 2030, somebody by 2050, somebody by investing in these funds. And you saw the announcement by RIL to replace auto fuel with clean energy last year in the AGM. And this is what was actually promised July 16, 2020. And the new business is new energy leveraged with new materials is what you say. And then from that intention, this announcement was made of 75,000 crore in 3 years and 4 gigafactories that you heard. And he also announced the creation of New Energy Council. I'm the chairman of this council. And these are some great thought leaders from around the world, like Mr. Wind, Mr. Solar, and like Martin Green is kind of Mr. Solar of the world. 80% of his PERC cell technology is used among the solar cells, and similarly Mr. Wind and Mr. Carbon Capture. So this is extremely interesting. And now, of course, Mukesh Bhai has announced this 111, as he only does 1 kg of hydrogen for $1 within 1 decade. And that is considered audacious by many, but I'm sure, in fact, people call it geoification of green energy. Just through geo, the entire digital world changed. Similarly, the green energy world will change. The World Economic Forum, of course, by taking several partners from Airbus to Volvo, is creating these 15 transitions with the 3 socio-economic systems, delivering almost $10 million of annual business opportunities. So there is a huge business opportunity here. This is a coalition, a fantastic coalition. And the last part of my 10 tenets is innovation. And I always said the I in India must stand for innovation, not inhibition, but it must become a way of life. And you can see innovating during crisis triggers faster recovery. There are data to show that the innovative companies, if you look at the normalized market capitalization, they outperform the market by upward of 30% in the post-crisis years. So that is fundamental. I like to end by saying that this book of mine, I'm not trying to advertise, but trying to link to what I'm saying. This book of leapfrogging to pole vaulting, which won the Business Book of the Year award in 2019. There is a basic concept about the fact that we should not. Why does the frog leap? He leaps because he's afraid of the predators. And jumps a few feet. Should we do that, or should we pole vault? The size of the pole is the size of our aspiration. And I remember, and this is to create a radical yet sustainable transformation. And I'm happy to see that there is a framework that we have created, and all 10 resilience tenets, they collapse into the single framework that we have created. And this actually is the assured framework. That means whatever you do is affordable, scalable, sustainable, universal, rapid, excellence in terms of the latest technology, and is distinctive, not me too. And this came up because somebody had asked me, how do we assure an assured success in a pole vault? And I said, we said, I and Ravi Pandit, we are co-authors of this book. We said that these are the fundamentals. If you meet them, that happens. Assured matrix evaluation of resilience, if you just see, our book gives these criteria and shows all these companies were very successful at a point in time. They don't exist today. All right, they were not resilient enough. Why? For example, Napster. It was free download of music. They had 80 million users and customers. They don't exist. Why? Because they met most of the criteria. But when it came to sustainability, which are the dimension of also social acceptability, it was not socially acceptable by Society of Musicians. They said, you can't download my music free, and they're gone. Same thing about BlackBerry. It was very email centric, and when the touch technologies came, they didn't bother. They were still sticking to their keypads and so on. And they don't exist. And they had, at a point in time, 50 million customers. So there are interesting case studies here linking this to the assured matrix. And we can see, for example, Google Glass, it was a great invention. It was distinctive, excellent, but it did not meet any of the other sort of criteria, and it failed. And if you look at Jio, for example, is it affordable? Yes. ₹4 per GB and free voice. Is it scalable? Yes. 450 million customers. Is it sustainable? Yes. It's making great profits. Is it universal, user-friendly? Yes. You can see both of these ladies using it with equal ease. Is it rapid? Yes. They onboarded 50 million customers within 83 days. Is it excellence? Yes. 4G LTE, latest technology. Is it distinctive? Yes. There were lots of innovations all around. And therefore, while building resilient organizations, I think these are fundamentals that we can look at. And finally, Atmanirbhar Bharat is what we are talking about. Yes, we can build Atmanirbhar Bharat with Atmavishwas, but if we have this assured resilience framework, strategy, and aspiration. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mashelkar, for giving us such an insightful Crusaders address.